How's it going, everybody? My name is Chickenly, and today we will be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 226. So obviously, spoilers ahead for this chapter and past chapters if you're not already caught up. So this chapter was honestly insane. We left off last chapter with Sukuna's divine shrine, that's the name of it, his domain, overpowering Gojo's from the outside and ultimately breaking it so that Gojo's domain was gone, and then Gojo took a slash to the neck. And so everyone was like, oh my god, he's done. He's not done, bro. It's Gojo. Come on, he's not done. Dude got stabbed in the neck and like bled out and still lived. Like this is nothing to him. So I was confident that it would, obviously he wasn't like dead. You know, obviously it was a big shock. So last chapter I was talking with my friends like, so why was it never brought up that Sukuna had a domain that had no barrier? It was an open domain. Obviously Inumaki knew it, Yuji knew it, and apparently Choso knew it too. So how in that entire like month span that they had a time skip did no one think it was relevant to bring up? Why did Yuji at any point talking about Sukuna's abilities to Gojo? Obviously he knows the most, since he was Sukuna's vessel. He wouldn't be like, yo, hey Gojo, know you're about to go in this fight, heads up, Sukuna's domain, it don't got a barrier. I don't know what that means, if it's relevant to you, just thought I'd give you a heads up. Clearly he didn't, but ultimately I don't think the end result would have changed. Sukuna using his domain was obviously inevitable in this battle between the two strongest sorcerers. It was inevitably going to happen that there was going to be a domain clash, whether Gojo did it first or Sukuna did it first. So even if Gojo didn't use his domain, obviously he would have his curse technique up and able to use. But I still think the onslaught of attacks from Sukuna's sure hit domain would have been enough to overpower that infinity. And so I think the end result still would have been the same, that Gojo would ultimately been like kind of put in this corner. So I think he would have been in a better position, mind you, because he would have had his curse technique this entire chapter. But ultimately, you know, end result's still the same. Kind of a weird writing quirk by Gege. I don't know if he's gonna like address that later about anything. I just thought it was kind of weird that no one brought it up. No one said anything. And I don't know, that feels like such a weird, I don't want to say plot hole, because obviously we don't know if there was mention or not, or I don't know. It just seems weird to me. But so anyway, this chapter was fantastic. I think this is the first time, I guess we saw Gojo kind of pushed into a corner and defeated by Toji. But that was very much when he was still an adolescent in high school. He obviously hadn't mastered his entire technique. But this is full power Gojo. This is the Gojo we know at his peak, at his prime, and he's being pushed into this corner and forced to really, really use his brain and kind of think of ways out of it. And I think it's super cool, and I'm loving this fight so far. I love how the start of the fight, Gojo blasts him with like 200% purple. And so obviously it was very much that Gojo, he had the upper hand. Now it's kind of like Sukuna has the upper hand, and it's like kind of coming back and forth. And I think it's just wonderful. I think it's so interesting to read. I think it's so intriguing, because this is a once in a lifetime fight in Jujutsu Kaisen. We're never gonna have a fight like this ever again. But this fight on this sheer scale, on this magnitude, is not gonna be the same ever. Yuji versus Sukuna is not gonna be the same as Gojo versus Sukuna. Gege has encapsulated this incredible scale so well. So as we get into this chapter, obviously Gojo has been slashed and he's starting to bleed out. Everybody's talking kind of about like, dude, this guy's getting fucked. But he obviously, since Gojo has this infinite amount of cursed energy, it's not technically infinite, but since his 6 eyes, he's able to kind of recycle it. Kind of, he is just fully automatic, like Hakari in his domain. After his domain, he gets that infinite, unconscious kind of reverse curse technique, so it's just automatic. But Jesus Christ, I'm looking at this panel. You can see that even with reverse curse technique, Gojo is getting like slashed and beat the fuck up. And no, this just puts into scale. No one is surviving Sukuna. No one's surviving Sukuna's domain like this, dude. If you are not Gojo, you are dead. How do you survive this? How do you live? It doesn't make sense. Oh my gosh, but Gojo is just taking all the hits and doing his reverse curse technique. And I think throughout this chapter we see a lot of Gojo kind of stalling, he's pushing in that corner where in his domain he can still survive because he's using that he's completely recycling his reverse curse technique. Reverse curse technique to heal himself, but he's not able to use his curse technique, so they're kind of in a stalemate, and that's why Sukuna pressures him, because obviously his domain is still attacking him. Sukuna can now kind of like duo with himself. He's like double teaming Gojo. So we see them kind of fight more. Sukuna is using his hands, kind of try to keep him occupied. And personally, I don't think it was ever stated, but I think if Gojo hadn't done anything, I think he inevitably would have lost here, just because either A, he's pushed into that stalemate where he is just not doing anything. He can only heal, or two, it's the power is overwhelming that while he can still heal it, over time he can only heal so much while the technique does more and more and more and more, and eventually it's going to overtake it. That's how I personally, I guess I'd say my headcanon, and that's what I think is happening. I think that's what's being translated to us. I don't think it was ever officially stated, so that's just what I was kind of thinking reading this, and that's why Gojo kind of had to go on the offensive here at the end. Yeah, so what's interesting is that Gojo brings up the point that Sukuna himself is not the central part of the domain, which I guess means all the other domains that we've seen, like Mahito's, Gojo's, other Megami's, all those were centralized around that person, where this one's centralized around the shrine itself. If Gojo can't break the shrine, I guess when can you technically break it or get out? Because at the end of the chapter we see Gojo blast Sukuna into the domain, like into the shrine, but it doesn't really seem like he broke it to me. Sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place, but so after a little bit of fighting, we see Gojo uses this simple domain technique, which it neutralizes the effect of the sure hit from Sukuna's malevolent shrine, not divine shrine, malevolent shrine. So it kind of buys him that extra time to get a step up on the healing, and then obviously it only works for a couple seconds, then it's deactivated again just by the sheer magnitude of the technique. Then obviously he uses it again, but this time not to heal himself, but to heal his technique, so that he can use red and blast Sukuna into his malevolent shrine. It's just, oh my gosh. You see Gojo being put in such a disadvantage, yet using his mind and IQ so well that he is able to think of this plan that I can only heal for so long. I can only stay on the defensive for so long until I'm put into an inevitable losing situation. I need to take action. And so he heals his technique to fight Sukuna off in his own domain. Oh my god, Gojo is him, bro. Gojo is Gojo, dude. How do you compare to this dude? How did he think that Megami and Yuji and Yuta are ever gonna compare to him? He's not. They're not. Are they doing this? They're never gonna do this, dude. It's wild. This chapter was insanely wild. This fight is already one of my favorites in this series. And personally, I thought that Gege was kind of rushing it, because we get to that. I initially thought, oh, they're kind of rushing immediately with skipping that time skip and then going straight into the fight. And now they already did their domains. I'm like, oh my god, Gege, slow down, dude. Like, this fight's gonna be over. But the more I think about it, the more I don't think this fight's gonna be over, like, anytime soon. First of all, I'd like to say, one, when Gojo said at the start of the series that when Yuji asked him, could you beat Sukuna at 20 fingers, and he said yes, I think that statement still holds up. He could beat Sukuna base 20 fingers. I think that he could do it. But I think this is where this fight is leading to. It's not Sukuna in Yuji's body. It's not just Sukuna with his base techniques. It's in Megami's body, and we've heard before in Shibuya that Gojo said the previous user of the Six Eyes and Limitless was killed in a duel by a Ten Shadows user, and they presumably both died to Maharaga. It was never stated It was very much implied that Mahoraga killed them both. So where I think this fight is leading is that Sukuna still has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, while Gojo, I think, is kind of at his end of technique, or like techniques that he can still pull out of his sleeve and see that he can still overcome. Obviously, we saw this with Simple Domain and healing his technique. These were things that I think we didn't really know until he actually did it in this chapter. Where this fight is going, I think it's inevitable that Sukuna is going to win. I think give it a couple more chapters, we're going to see a lot more of Sukuna's power and what he's capable of, and he's eventually going to overcome and kill Gojo. I just think that's where the fight is going. Now, if this was Sukuna and Yuji's body, I think he wouldn't have won. I think Gojo would have, I think this would have played out the exact same up until this, where they got into the domain battle. Sukuna would have beaten his Gojo with the domain, but I think in this next chapter we're gonna see Gojo overpower Sukuna and beat his domain somehow. Either he's gonna somehow break the shrine or something. He's gonna force like Sukuna to deactivate it or take down the domain. Something's gonna happen to a point where Gojo is going to overpower base Sukuna, and I think this is where we're gonna see Sukuna pull out his other tricks. So what other tricks does Sukuna have? Well, first of all, he's in Megami's body. He has the 10 Shadows technique, including Mahoraga. I think after we see Gojo defeat Sukuna's base form with with his Cleave and Dismantle and the Shrine, I think we're going to see Megami pull out the wheel like he did in his fight with Yorozu. He's going to pull out the wheel and fight Gojo enough so that Mahoraga can learn Gojo's Infinity and learn how to overcome it and break it. So we have 10 Shadows and Mahoraga, along with his already Cleave and Dismantle, which we've seen is on par with Gojo's abilities. I think Gojo was just a little stronger. The second thing we have up his sleeve is his already, well, I guess with being in Megami's body, his second thing would be that he has, supposedly he has Megami's domain expansion, Chimera Shadow Garden. Now, we haven't seen the full capabilities of it. We got a little bit of it at the end of season 1 during the Cursed Room arc. We got a little bit more in Shibuya where he was trying to break open Dagon's domain, and then finally we got to see it a lot more during his Megami's fight with Registar, and obviously he had to use the gymnasium to encapsulate it. But we saw a little bit of like a skeleton or spine being formed behind him, and I think we're gonna officially see Megami's full domain against Gojo, and I think it'd be interesting to see if Gojo uses Infinite Void again, maybe after this fight or after this first domain clash. He is not able to reuse it for a while, so that's why maybe Sukuna brings it out. But I think there's still a lot of potential with Megami's 10 Shadows and Megami's domain expansion that we still have yet to see. And Sukuna already showed off the capabilities of 10 Shadows against Yorozu. And I think with the combination of Megami's technique, Megami's domain, and Sukuna's current arsenal of techniques with this Cleave and Dismantle, I think we're going to see a lot of that and see the full potential of Megami's capabilities against Gojo. Now, the third thing is going back to Sukuna's techniques. We don't know all of Sukuna's techniques. We only know Cleave and Dismantle and then the piercing fire arrow that we still don't truly know what exactly it is. There's a lot of theories that Sukuna will have one more technique with, I think it was like a blade or something, or like the markings on his bodies store techniques, or they store cursed objects or cursed weapons. And so I think this fight, we're going to see Sukuna pull a lot more of those. I think we're going to see him pull that flame arrow, and by the commentary, I think no one's going to know what the fuck that is. Maybe Kashimo will know. So he still has his hidden techniques that we still don't truly know and we're not really prepared for. And then finally, and I think is probably going to be, might be the deal breaker to this fight and might push Sukuna over the edge. I already think he's going to win with Megami's techniques, with his domain, and with Sukuna's hidden techniques. But I think what's going to truly push it over the edge and make sure that Gojo does not come out of this fight is the gift from Yorozu. We don't know what it is. Obviously, it's shrouded in this big mystery, but it is obviously super important that Yorozu gave this to Sukuna. I think it has to be a weapon of some kind. In my head, I'm thinking it has to be some kind of like inverted spear or the whip where it will bypass curse techniques, and so it will be able to kill Gojo. But I'm not sure. We don't know yet. I think there's a lot of possibilities of what it could be, and we just don't know. I think that's going to be the final trump card that Sukuna goes against with Gojo. Maybe he doesn't even use it at all with Gojo. Maybe he only has to defeat Gojo with Megami's techniques and his hidden techniques, and Yorozu's tool or gift or whatever it is used for later. But I don't know who that'd be against. Maybe Yuji, maybe Yuta, maybe Kashimo, Hakuri. I don't know. But there's a lot of directions this fight can go. I think ultimately at the end, Sukuna is going to reveal a lot more about his techniques, a lot more about his knowledge, and eventually he's going to beat and kill Gojo. I don't know what's going to happen after that, because honestly, I don't know how you kill Sukuna after this. If it's not Gojo, then it has to be Yuji. I feel like Yuji has to be the one to beat Sukuna, but I don't know how he does it. We got a little bit of a tease with the soul swapping or whatever you want to call it, but ultimately, I don't know. I don't know how Gege ends this year. I don't think he is. I think there's still a lot more chapters to go. I think there's a lot more chapters in this fight alone to go. I still think we got another 4 or 5 chapters in this fight with how much mystery is behind Sukuna and his power and his techniques and how much this fight has been built up. I think this fight is going to last a little longer. We have only seen the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see a lot more with this fight, a lot more of the full capabilities of both Gojo and Sukuna. Maybe this fight is broken up. Maybe like in the next couple chapters, maybe we see a lot more of what Kenjaku is doing. But we've seen pretty much these last couple chapters have just been this fight and the commentary from the people watching it. So obviously we know no one on our side, I guess on Jujutsu High's side, is doing anything else but watching this fight. Now, Kenjaku and the other sorcerers still playing the game might still be doing something. So I think we might see more of that, but we might not see it until after the fight. I don't know. There's a lot that could happen. So that's pretty much all I had to say. I still have a lot more theories about the end of like what's going to happen after this fight. Where is the story heading? But I think I can just save that for a different time. I think I've explained my thoughts already enough on this fight alone. The sheer magnitude of it, the sheer scale, just the story buildup of it all. And so yeah, so kind of just preface, I think we're gonna get a couple more chapters of this fight. Eventually we're gonna see Sukuna's full arsenal of techniques, whether it be multiple, like the fire arrow, like a hidden inventory system or a hidden technique system, something like that. We're gonna see more of Sukuna's techniques. We're gonna see Megami's capabilities shown on full scale. We're going to see Megami's full domain. We're going to see Maharaga come out and be able to bypass infinity. And maybe we see Yorozu's gift. I'm kind of leaning towards that we don't. I'm thinking that Sukuna might just beat him with Megami's techniques, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think Gojo's coming out of this. I think even if the plot didn't call for Sukuna winning this fight, I think he still wins. Just being in Megami's body, I think that pushes him over the edge and gives him the advantage. We've only seen him use his own techniques against Gojo. Like the fight against Yorozu, he never even used Malevolent Shrine or Cleave and Dismantle. He only used the 10 Shadows and was able to beat Yorozu, who was a very, very skilled fighter. And so I think that gives us a good knowledge of how adaptable Sukuna is. This is a technique he hasn't even used, and he's already using it better than Megami. So yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to be hyped for. It is a good year to be a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, and I'm here for it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had for this chapter. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.